Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, Bryce Walker in 13 Reasons Why, Nate Jacobs in Euphoria, and Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter. What is one characteristic that all these characters have in common? Hi guys, this is Tejaswita Singh from Rotary Club of Atlas Kiltech University, and today we'll be talking about toxic masculinity as a topic and how we need to spread more awareness about it so that the younger generation is not affected by the same. So the characters that I just mentioned, throughout the shows that they were in, it was highly noticeable how they treated the people around them and the never-ending narcissism that they were withholding. But the bigger problem of the fact was, instead of being trashed upon and discouraged, these guys were romanticized and fantasized over. People around them wanted to be like them or be with them. But I don't understand, how can you be with someone who is so physically and verbally abusive, and more importantly, they're psychologically manipulative and scarring. Now, toxic masculinity just doesn't affect girls. It is actually more traumatizing for the men who have to sit through those uncomfortable conversations and register comments like, "Don't cry, you're a man, men don't cry. Don't wear that, it's so feminine of you. Only gay men wear pink. And don't talk about your emotions, that's so weak of you. Men don't talk about their emotions." Comments like these show how extensively society is engulfed in these stereotypes of masculinity and how it affects both the genders. Now let's take a different example of the infamous Andrew Tate, who is trending all across social media for his not so decent comments about girls, mind you, younger and older, and his homophobic and racist comments on his Twitter posts almost regularly. He makes those, he calls himself an alpha male, and he thinks that it's something that he should be proud of, but it's quite frankly not something he should be proud of. It is very unnecessary and it's quite condescending and negative in a manner. Guys specifically from the Gen Z generation want to be like him. They want to be called the alpha male because it means you hold power, you hold control over the people around you. People like him are trying to influence the younger generation into being someone who disrespects and degrades everyone around them. And this should be prevented. It should be an extensive awareness. There should be an extensive awareness about this, and that's why we choose this topic this month to talk about toxic masculinity and how we can spread awareness about it and how we can prevent it. Now, to understand this topic in a much better manner, I will like to introduce Mr. Harish Sadani, founder of MAVA Foundation, who will give us a much better insight regarding this topic.
Good evening, sir. First of all, thank you so much for giving me the valuable time for us. I am Dr. Jheel Mehta, and we all are from the Atlas Kiltech University, and our Rotary clubs are doing projects for the community. And this is an initiative by the community service and the support functions, which is doing a year-long project where we discuss topics like this. And for today, we have toxic masculinity as our first topic, and we are very grateful for you that you are the first guest for this project. And this is just a small token of appreciation from our side for you. Thank you so much for removing the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question.
Mr. Harish, would you like to share with the viewers that what MAVA does right now and what are the aims and achievements that this community, they want to do for the community, and what are they doing right now? Would you please like to share with the viewers of anything?
Yeah, so MAVA, MAVA, as it stands for Men Against Violence and Abuse. We are actually India's first organization of sensitive, concerned men working to stop and prevent gender-based violence on women. We have been working for the last 29 years as India's pioneering organization, started by men who are normally seen as part of the problem. But unless they're seen as part of the solution, we will not be able to address the root cause, which is dominant attitudes in society. So, it's a long journey that we have come through last 29 years. Primarily our focus is young men and adolescent boys. And even though we are based in Mumbai, our work is slowly, steadily spreading to across India. And in fact, we have even started work outside India through a very unique traveling film festival. So, I would say that our programs include primarily gender sensitization and mentoring select young men. They are studying in colleges, universities. Also, some of them are working. We also work with adolescent boys of 13 to 17 years, and they can be in community settings, they can be in schools. So, we have a wealth of experience of working with young men and adolescent boys and enabling them to stand up for the women's rights to dignity and safety. So we are doing it through a variety of methods which are user friendly, which are youth friendly, and which are out of the box kind of methods. And apart from this, a very unique traveling film fest is also what I have been organizing, where on a 2-day film festival from 10 to 6, we showcase different films on gender themes. Now, these are short films, feature films, and often documentaries on a wide range of contemporary gender films. So, the films stir conversations among young people, which includes not just men but women, non-binary individuals as well.
For you personally, what do you think masculinity means in today's day and age? And what do you think that it has been toxic, or how are the people around dealing with that? So what do you think about it?
So I would say that there are two words, sex and gender. So sex is a natural construct. What we are born as is not something which is in our hands. So either we are born as a baby boy or a baby girl, or some of us know that somebody can be born as an intersex child. So that is the sex which is determined by the genitals of an individual. But what is gender? Gender is the social construction of what it means to be a man or a woman. So when you say gender is a social construct, so also masculinity is a social construct, which means that the ideas about being a man are being shaped by the society at large. And when I say society, all the subsystems of society, which includes family, religion, government, media, educational system. So all these shape ideas about masculinity. And masculinity is not a unitary construct. It's not like one type of masculinity. There are again kinds and kinds of masculinity. But the one kind of masculinity which is projected in media and around, including by the government, by and large, by majority of the subsystems, is what is called as the dominant masculinity, or I would say hegemonic, which is like showing men are always superior over other people, including women, including other gender minorities. So I think this system, which is called as a male-dominated system in our society, or a patriarchal system, it's a system which gives power to men so that they are seen to be superior over all other genders. And I think these notions of masculinity, so just as I said earlier, that there are other kinds of masculinities also. There are subordinated masculinity, there's marginalized masculinity, there's complicit masculinity, and these other forms of masculinity are also found around. But the one which is projected and reinforced by all systems of society is the dominant model, and it's that dominant model which is now taken the form of toxic masculinity. It's that which is of late talked about, and we as an organization also try to relate that this kind of masculinity is not the one which just harms women, but in the long run it also harms men and boys, and that's why we should be conscious about this and talking about it at various levels.
So what I am view is that how is the media representing this problem? How is the Indian media? We know that there's a lot of social media influence these days. So how is the media? Is it doing good or is it affecting in the bad way to the society?
So in media, there are kinds of media. There is the electronic and print media, and there is a social media. So I find that when you say electronic print media, including films, which includes Bollywood films or even other Tollywood films, they have a huge impact on young people, especially impressionable young minds. So you find that the songs of such films over the years, the dialogues of some of the films, and the kind of behavior which is projected of the heroes are emulated by many people in our country. So you have had in the past songs like तुम अगर मुझको ना चाहोगी तो कोई बात नहीं, तुम किसी और को चाहोगी तो मुश्किल होगी. A song by Raj Kapoor sung by Mukesh. He was indirectly telling कि तुम्हें मुझे ही चाहना होगा, but you have modern day Shah Rukh Khan telling it very clearly and bluntly that तू हाँ कर या ना कर, तू है मेरी किरण. Your view doesn't matter at all whether you say yes or no, you are mine. And therefore this possessive, obsessive person in the woman's life, you find that it is depicted in various ways. Last year or before that, the film Kabir Singh was a huge hit across India, and it was found through many studies that not just boys but a large number of significant number of girls also were liking the character, and they found the character nothing wrong in that character's behavior, with the thinking that a man has to be a little bit possessive. So now the question is a little bit who draws the line. But at the same time, there are also some positive films which are coming up. Even short films, documentaries. There's a short film called Juice by Neeraj Ghaiwan, the well-known filmmaker who made Masan and other kinds. His film Juice really covers the topic about domestic violence in a very, very significant, poignant way, and which has a very good impact. So there are a new genre of filmmakers who are making differently thinking films, but still I would say that we have come a long way where the female gender stereotypes have been broken, but the male gender stereotypes still remain.
Talking about this, I think you must have heard the word conscious masculinity. And do you think that is a solution somewhere to toxic masculinity, or it would help somewhere in a good way?
So I would say, see, toxic masculinity is not something which is present in every man. When we say the word toxic masculinity, what we mean is that those toxic cultures which are harmful to not just the women and girls, but also to men and boys, and in general humankind. So that toxicity, as we say, is the toxic masculine behavior is one form, but there are other masculine traits also present in any human being, those of kindness, sensitivity, caring, nature. So I think I would use the word not like a positive masculinity or conscious masculinity. I would use the word gender equitable model of masculinity, which is what is needed in our society as an alternative to the toxic masculinity. And my organization's work among young people across India has shown that when you work consistently with a group of men and enable them to rethink, to reflect, so the three words we say, unlearn, learn and relearn. So they are unlearning ideas or what you could say deconstructing what is the existing form of masculinity and go into the roots of it, interrogate it, and then come up with alternative ways of redefining that masculinity. So one is the existing, just as in schools we are told that we dissect a frog. So similarly you deconstruct how it is existing at the moment, and after you have deconstructed, then you will make attempts to reconstruct. And this reconstruction have to be done largely by men themselves. You don't expect someone else, including women's organizations or women, to show the way. It's men who have to take a pause, reflect, and see whether their behavior is toxic in some form or the other, and if at all it is there, then they should use corrective measures to come out of that toxicity, that toxic culture, and evolve alternatives which can be promoted through peers and other young men. Men of substance in all fields, whether it is culture, whether it's sports, or whether it's the film world, there is a dearth, there is a lack of men in all these fields who would take up an active stand for the women in their lives. Men who would say that I believe in my personal life that raising a hand or using abuse is wrong, and which I don't do with the woman in my life, and that's why I'm standing for MAVA's cause. I find that there's a dearth of such men, which unlike in the West, just to give you a latest example, we had 2 days ago the finale, signing off by Roger Federer, well-known tennis player. Now, those who have studied Roger Federer's experience of several years as a tennis legend, they know it by now that there were moments whenever he played on the field, whether he won or whether he's lost, you find that this person is expressing his emotions in the purest form before anyone, and he has even commented that what his 2 daughters, who are twin daughters, and what his wife feel about the way he played, that matters to him more than anyone else. So, I find that there is a dearth. You won't find such examples in the Indian sportsmen.
In this 29 years of MAVA, I think you must have experienced many different stories. You have seen so many people. What is that one story, if you could share, in this 29 years that you still remember and you feel like, oh, that happened?
So there are actually many stories to tell, but I can narrate a story of a young guy whose name is Ved. So his real name is Ved Prakash Jaiswal, fondly called as Ved. He stays in South Bombay, in a slum in South Bombay, Kolaba. When he was around, I think 14, 15 years, when he was studying in his 10th standard, he had gone into a shell. That's when he got in touch with MAVA. We realized that he was not feeling interested in studies because of the atmosphere at home, where he used to see his father hitting mother on any provocation, and he as a young boy was intervening whenever he could, but he couldn't stop often. And then he realized that what can be done. It's that moment when MAVA team members contacted with him, and then gradually he came out of his shell, and we had to tell him that there are other boys also who go through similar situation and you can overcome. And then gradually we enabled him to concentrate on studies, while at the same time strengthen him so that he can empower his mother and sister, so that they are able to deal with the violence they have been facing daily. So I could say that the violence must have subsided over the years, but in the last 6-7 years this boy continues to be a role model. He takes parts actively in theatre and street theatre, and he mobilizes other young men to stand up, and he mobilizes young men from his own community where he hails from. So I think he is one among several faces who are trying to shape and redefine masculinity in their own way. He's there on the extreme left, yeah. So his name is Ved. And this is a part of our campaign, which 16 days activism it's called, which is from the 25th November till the 10th of December. So these 16 days are observed internationally as Violence Against Women Fortnight. And during these 16 days, as much mass awareness we can do. So last year we had this theme on toxic masculinity, where we have tried to show that comments like "be a man," "don't cry like a girl," "a lion never asks for help." So I think a lot of youth friendly media, including short videos, including campaigns that will stimulate minds, need to be created and designed and reached out across the society, especially among young men and boys.
So to the end, what would you like to tell to the youth, the men out there watching this, that if they want to reach out to MAVA sometime, how could they reach out to you all, and what are that something that makes them feel good if they are going through something really toxic masculinity? What would you like to share with them?
So my message to the young people, including especially young men, I would say that like the notions about toxic masculinity, which are being systematically reinforced in our society, one needs to be cautious about them, take a note. Like for example, men have to be always seen as provider, achiever. In real life, you find that men also go through failures, rejection in relationships, failures in terms of jobs, and also men need to show the humane side, the emotional side, the emotional quotient, or the EQ of men is generally found to be weaker and not developed fully. So I find that when men become more expressive, when they express their emotions in the purest form as it is, when they express their vulnerabilities and anxieties as they are, so when they are in their day-to-day life coming across incidents of violence in front of them, they can be what you call as a upstanders rather than bystanders. They should be taking up active stands. And a simple example I often give is often all of us who use WhatsApp or a mobile phone for getting messages, often we get messages which are derogatory, double meaning, or demeaning to women. And often we all know who are the senders. But the thing is, how many of us will respond befittingly to those senders and tell that henceforth, if you send such a message, I will unfriend you. Now that means taking an active stand. So, when we talk about gender-based violence on women, people think about sexual harassment, mass rape, and the so-called. But I would say that the rape culture in our society is not born all of a sudden. So if we don't talk about the day-to-day, what you call as the microaggressions, the misogyny, the casual sexism, which is through these messages, these kind of double meaning or demeaning jokes or taunts or comments, if we don't stop those and take a stand, we are in a way adding to the normalization, and that normalization results into not just the milder form but severe forms of violence. And that is the responsibility of the society as a whole. So the message of mine to the youth is a healthy society. If we want to have, then healthy conversations is the key for a healthier society. And for healthier conversations to happen, I would appeal all youth to start talking about these issues of discrimination and violence which they see in their day-to-day life, and stop the silence surrounding violence. If you stop the silence, then you are one step towards that gender equal, non-violent, pluralistic and diverse society which we all aim for.
Thank you so much for all the answers, and I think after this I personally understand that what toxic masculinity means and how do we explain it to the society, because there are different every individual sees it in a different format, and we need to make sure that it goes out in the society in the best possible way. So thank you so much for that, and we appreciate your time given to us. So
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I wish the retractors of your team go from strength to strength, and many such topics are covered in the future episodes as well. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely we are going to cover topics on abortion, on mental health, on LGBTQI plus rights, and much more. So we'll be doing 12 topics, and it will be a year-long project for us.
Thank you for this opportunity.
To conclude this video, we had retractor Tejaswita, who shared with us and introduced us the topic of toxic masculinity. And we had Mr. Harish Sadani, who emphasized on this particular topic. Now, let us understand how can we create solution for the problem of toxic masculinity. To begin with, one should stop trying to be someone that you are not. It often happens that when we get influenced because we are told to act a certain way. So the key is to be true to yourself so that you don't get influenced by people. Learn to be vulnerable. Vulnerability through the lens of toxic masculinity is equated with weakness. Learning to accept that you are vulnerable leads to emotional awareness, resulting in being more empathetic to yourself and also to others. Talk about it. The best way to challenge toxic masculinity is to talk about it openly. This means you need to have honest and fair conversations with the people in your life. If somehow this issue continues to arise and causes continuous stress, you can also take help of the professionals who can help you with mental health problems. Learning about consent. Toxic masculinity is often linked with dominance or being an alpha male. These attitudes can create a sense of enlightenment to other people's possessions, bodies, time, and attention. To sum up toxic masculinity, it is necessary evil that has been prevalent in the society for many years, even though we may have not realized it. It has directly or indirectly done more damage than good in the society. Through this episode, we understood what actually is the meaning of toxic masculinity, its implications and its impacts, which was better understood with the interview which we conducted with Mr. Harish Sadani from MAVA. As well as we looked at the ways as individuals how we could help in reducing toxic masculinity. So this is the wrap for the first episode of Aawaz, Speaking the Unspoken. We'll meet you soon with the next episode in the next month.